In example 1, you're asked to describe the solid that's formed by rotating each of these two-dimensional shapes um, along this line M, or around line M. So whenever I take a triangle and I'm rotating it around the line, what's going to happen is it's going to create a cylinder. So this point up here is going to stay in place, but the bottom here will basically come all the way around. So this will be the radius, and you'll get a cone. So for this one, our description will be a cone. Whenever you start with a rectangle, you're going to end up with a cylinder when you're rotating around the line. So this right here will be the radius. So it's going to end up over, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it. It'll end up over on this side here. So there's my cylinder. And whenever you start with a half a circle, you're going to end up with a sphere. So basically imagine this semicircle coming up off the paper and just going around through. Same with all of these. I'm just kind of imagining that shape coming off the paper and going around. You should always end up with circular shapes because you're rotating 360 degrees, so you should always have curved pieces. So basically for this one, I'm going to sketch the other half of the circle, or do the best to sketch the other half. And then I'm just going to make it look three-dimensional. So there's a sphere. And then this one, you're starting with the circle, and it's basically, imagine if it's coming up through and around, you're always going to have this space in here that's going to be empty. So what's going to happen is the circle will come through over here, and it's going to create this tube-like shape, or kind of like a donut-like shape. So something like this is kind of what it's going to look like. So for this, I'm just going to describe it as a donut. And then for this next section here, example 2, now you're actually asked to find the volume. So if I'm looking at this, the first thing you want to do is you want to look, okay, if I were to rotate this, pay attention to what you're rotating around though. I'm rotating around the y-axis. So since I'm rotating around the y-axis, this rectangle is going to come up and over to this other side. So the radius here is going to be 3 of this cylinder. And it's gonna, so that means it's gonna hit over here. So it's coming up off the paper, hitting over here, and then going behind the paper. And same thing with the top here, it's gonna hit. So it's gonna create this cylinder with a radius of 3. And the height of the cylinder will be the height of the rectangle here. So the height will be this distance right here. So the height's gonna be 2. So when I go to find the volume, I'm just gonna use my volume formula. So pi r squared times h. The volume will end up being pi times the radius. So remember, the radius is just going to be the length of the rectangle, so that's going to, or the width of the rectangle, so that'll be 3. And then the height will be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and leave this in terms of pi. You could enter it in your calculator. There's no rounding direction, so I'm just going to leave it in terms of pi. So that means I'm going to do 3 squared times 4, and I'm going to get 36, and then I'm just going to keep pi. Units on this are just going to be units cubed because I don't have like an actual unit. So that's it. If you leave it as a, if you want to round it as a decimal, you can, but there's no direction, so I'll just leave it. So I'm just going to write the answer over here, 36 pi units cubed.